You asked about this debate that, is what Trump is doing a distraction from the Epstein files, or is it the rise of fascism in America, or the arrival? It's not even the rise anymore, it's the arrival. And I would really love for people to stop saying that those are binaries. It's either a distraction or it's or it's fascism or an attempt at authoritarianism. So I'm always a jerk on this one because fascism actually has some hallmarks, economic hallmarks, that authoritarian governments do not. They really don't matter probably to anybody but me and a very few people who study the economy. But so I tend to call it authoritarianism where we are now rather than fascism. For you and me, it doesn't make any difference, but this is just, I kind of try and keep lanes in my head. And so when I don't say the word fascism, it's not because I don't think it's here. It's because what we're seeing to me is authoritarianism, not fascism, although like I say, it doesn't matter to people like you and me. We're still at the wrong end of it. There's never a good end of it. I don't mean it that way, but I'm just explaining my terminology there. All right. This to me is like the age-old debate about, do we have real problems with the rise of the right wing in America because of racism or because of classism? Is it class or race? I mean, historians, there's literally an entire library of books about, is it race or class? And being a Libra over here, it's both. I mean, one of the things that in the United States of America is that race is often a stand-in for class and vice versa. And so you can't really ever disentangle them. And the reason I say that is because is what Trump is doing a distraction from the Epstein files? 100%. Yes, he's throwing everything he possibly can at the wall. But does that mean it's not authoritarianism? No, it's authoritarianism. So just don't get dragged into that fight. Yes, it's a distraction, but it is also an attempt to demonstrate in the streets that Trump and the MAGA Republicans have power over the rest of us. So one of the things you saw today in California was that Trump sent ICE agents in to arrest people outside of where Gavin Newsom was speaking. You're seeing ICE agents and Border Patrol in California. Let me tell you a little bit more about ICE versus Border Patrol in a minute too. But you're seeing it in Washington, D.C. You're seeing federal troops hurting U.S. citizens in evident violation of the Posse Comitatus Act that I spoke about the other day. Now, in court, the Trump administration is insisting that they're not doing anything that is not allowed under the Posse Comitatus Act. The reality is that we're seeing something different on the streets, and they're trying to argue that that's not what's happening. But those two things, distraction versus fascism, are the same thing. If they can distract Americans, they will do it in any possible way they can. At the same time, they are trying to accustom Americans to seeing armed police, masked police without their names on them on the streets. They're trying to get people to adjust to the idea that it is okay for their neighbors to be swept up into unmarked vans and to be held for weeks at the very least in detention in places we don't know where they are. That's bonkers. I mean, it's one of those things that's happening, but take a deep breath and think about the United States of America and recognize that our government is grabbing people off the streets who at worst have committed misdemeanors, which is, if you overstay a visa or if you are an undocumented immigrant, it is not a felony. They're taking, and some of those people were turned into undocumented immigrants by the sudden decisions of the Trump administration about policies that Biden had put in place. They're taking those people off the streets and they are disappearing them into detention facilities, often without any recourse, without due process, without them being able to contact their families or their lawyers. And this is not okay under any circumstances. It is really interesting, though, that those people who insisted that they needed to be armed to fight back against a government doing something like this, or if you remember Jade Helm, this was a big argument on the part of the radical right. are wildly silent now that it is actually happening, which suggests that what they were really interested in was power and was taking power over the government rather than making sure the government couldn't have power over them. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole now because we got other stuff to do. But it's a really interesting point that I will come back to both in my writing and in these videos. By the way, I don't know if the people who watch me here know that I write about American politics every night. And if you want to read those letters, you can go to the website where they sit. It does not have a paywall. It's called Letters from an American. Or you can subscribe to have it sent to your email. They are free. Don't put in your credit card, or you can read me on Facebook. Because sometimes I get questions on here that I've answered the night before, and I think, do they know that they can read this too? You can read them, and like I say, they're free.